Welcome to Brewtok, the place where coffee myths get debunked and caffeine truths come to light. Today, we're diving deep into a question that's probably danced across your mind after that third espresso shot. Can you actually overdose on caffeine? We're not talking about just getting jittery or skipping sleep. We're talking real overdose, as in dangerous doses, heart palpitations, hospital trips, even death. Scary, right? But here's the thing, caffeine is everywhere. It's in your coffee, your tea, your energy drinks, soda, chocolate, even some medications. And yet, many people treat it like it's harmless. So how much is too much? What does science say? Can your afternoon cappuccino really push you over the edge? Or is this all media hype? Stick around as we explore the chemistry of caffeine, how your body processes it, real-life overdose cases, the warning signs, and most importantly, how to keep your caffeine habit safe. Grab your cup responsibly. This one's going to be eye-opening, let's face it. For many of us, mornings without coffee are like a phone without signal, technically functional but practically useless. That warm, bitter brew has become more than a beverage. It's a ritual, a reason to get out of bed, a tiny act of hope. But what happens when your morning pick-me-up becomes an all-day, every hour, over-caffeinated ride? Let's zoom in on something we rarely talk about. Can you actually overdose on caffeine? Yes, you can. But before you throw your coffee mug across the room in panic, let's understand what an overdose actually means and why it's more common than we think, just not in the way you might imagine. Because it turns out, caffeine isn't just a friendly productivity boost, it's a drug. A psychoactive one. And like any substance that messes with your brain chemistry, too much of it can have consequences. You've probably heard someone say, "I can drink 5 espressos and still sleep like a baby," while another person starts jittering after a single cup of tea. Why such a huge difference? The answer lies in one word: tolerance. Caffeine tolerance isn't just real, it's personal. And it's built like a biological fingerprint. Let's start with the basics. According to the FDA, up to 400 milligrams of caffeine per day is generally considered safe for most healthy adults. That's about 4 small cups of coffee. But what happens when you go above that? That's where things start to get shaky, literally. Too much caffeine can lead to a condition called caffeine intoxication, and yes, that's an actual clinical diagnosis. It includes symptoms like restlessness, insomnia, flushed face, muscle twitching, rambling speech, irregular heartbeat, and even gastrointestinal upset. You don't have to down a crate of Red Bulls to feel it. Some people start feeling off after just 250 mg. And here's the kicker: tolerance builds quickly. Within a few days of daily intake, your body begins to adapt. Your adenosine receptors, the sleepy time neurotransmitters that caffeine blocks, start multiplying. Welcome to Brewtok, the place where coffee myths get debunked and caffeine truths come to light. Today, we're diving deep into a question that's probably danced across your mind after that third espresso shot. Can you actually overdose on caffeine? We're not talking about just getting jittery or skipping sleep. We're talking real overdose, as in dangerous doses, heart palpitations, hospital trips, even death. Scary, right? But here's the thing, caffeine is everywhere. It's in your coffee, your tea, your energy drinks, soda, chocolate, even some medications. And yet, many people treat it like it's harmless. So how much is too much? What does science say? Can your afternoon cappuccino really push you over the edge? Or is this all media hype? Stick around as we explore the chemistry of caffeine, how your body processes it, real-life overdose cases, the warning signs, and most importantly, how to keep your caffeine habit safe. Grab your cup responsibly. This one's going to be eye-opening, let's face it. For many of us, mornings without coffee are like a phone without signal, technically functional but practically useless. That warm, bitter brew has become more than a beverage. It's a ritual, a reason to get out of bed, a tiny act of hope. But what happens when your morning pick-me-up becomes an all-day, every hour, over-caffeinated ride? Let's zoom in on something we rarely talk about. Can you actually overdose on caffeine? Yes, you can. But before you throw your coffee mug across the room in panic, let's understand what an overdose actually means and why it's more common than we think, just not in the way you might imagine. Because it turns out, caffeine isn't just a friendly productivity boost, it's a drug, a psychoactive one. And like any substance that messes with your brain chemistry, too much of it can have consequences. You've probably heard someone say, "I can drink 5 espressos and still sleep like a baby," while another person starts jittering after a single cup of tea. Why such a huge difference? The answer lies in one word: tolerance. Caffeine tolerance isn't just real, it's personal. And it's built like a biological fingerprint. Let's start with the basics. According to the FDA, up to 400 milligrams of caffeine per day is generally considered safe for most healthy adults. That's about 4 small cups of coffee. But what happens when you go above that? That's where things start to get shaky, literally. Too much caffeine can lead to a condition called caffeine intoxication, and yes, that's an actual clinical diagnosis. It includes symptoms like restlessness, insomnia, flushed face, muscle twitching, rambling speech, irregular heartbeat, and even gastrointestinal upset. You don't have to down a crate of Red Bulls to feel it. Some people start feeling off after just 250 mg. And here's the kicker: tolerance builds quickly. Within a few days of daily intake, your body begins to adapt. Your adenosine receptors, the sleepy time neurotransmitters that caffeine blocks, start multiplying. That's 600 mg, well over the recommended limit in one day. And the effects aren't always immediate. Symptoms of caffeine overload can creep up slowly. Jitteriness, a racing heart, dizziness, headaches, even nausea. In more severe cases, especially in those with heart conditions or sensitivity to stimulants, the consequences can be dangerous: arrhythmias, seizures, and in rare cases, death. There have been numerous reports, especially among young people, of ER visits linked to energy drink consumption. One widely publicized case involved a healthy teen who died after consuming 3 caffeine-packed beverages in under 2 hours. His autopsy showed no other substances, just caffeine. And energy drinks aren't the only hidden culprits. Caffeine is slipping into places you might not expect. Protein bars, chewing gum, bottled water, breath sprays, even peanut butter. These products often advertise their energizing effects but downplay the caffeine content. Over time, this creates a stacking effect, small hits throughout the day that quietly add up. Caffeine hides in plain sight. That green tea smoothie you had, it might contain more caffeine than a can of cola. The pain reliever you took for a headache, some brands add caffeine to enhance absorption. That pre-workout powder, it might deliver 2 or 3 servings of caffeine in one scoop. This all begs the question: are we consuming caffeine consciously, or are we walking through a minefield of stimulant-laced products disguised as everyday items? The real danger is not necessarily the espresso shot at your local cafe. It's the unregulated, unmonitored pileup of caffeine from every direction: the drinks, the supplements, the snacks. It's not always about 1 cup too many. Sometimes it's death by 1,000 sips. The next time you feel your hands shaking or your heart thumping too hard after a snack or beverage, take a look at the label. You might be surprised by what's inside. Because in the world of modern caffeine, it's not just coffee you have to watch, it's everything. Let's imagine your daily cup of coffee as a gentle roller coaster, one that gives you a smooth little lift. But what happens when you crank up the speed, add a few loops, and forget to buckle in? Welcome to the caffeine curve. It's not just about how much you consume, it's about what happens as you inch closer to that edge and what lies beyond it. The dose makes the poison, but caffeine takes that to heart. A little, you're alert; a bit more, you're energetic; too much, now we're jittery; push it further, we're in full-blown panic mode. That's the caffeine curve. In toxicology, there's something called the dose-response relationship, how your body reacts to increasing levels of a substance. For caffeine, this curve starts off pleasant and ends in a mess. And the sweet spot, it's narrower than most of us think. The friendly zone, 200 mg, this is your average cup of coffee. In this zone, caffeine improves reaction time, attention, and memory. It feels good. You feel good. Life is manageable. The jitter zone, 200-500 mg, for sensitive individuals, even this level might induce anxiety, rapid heart rate, or restlessness. Think triple espresso on an empty stomach. You may feel productive, but your hands are shaking like you've been rock climbing during an earthquake. The crash zone, over 500 mg, headaches, irritability, heart palpitations, nausea. You've likely crossed into the overconsumption zone. Your adrenal glands are overworked and cortisol, the stress hormone, is raging. That productivity you felt earlier, it's now sabotaging your calm. The danger zone, over 1000 mg, this is where caffeine isn't fun anymore. This is also where caffeine toxicity becomes a real concern. You may experience confusion, hallucinations, arrhythmia, irregular heartbeat, and even seizures. And if you're consuming caffeine pills, energy shots, or powdered caffeine, it's terrifyingly easy to reach this level. The lethal zone, 5,000-10,000 mg. Yes, caffeine has a lethal dose. Studies estimate the median lethal dose, LD50, for humans is around 150-200 mg per kilogram of body weight. For an average adult, that's about 10 grams of pure caffeine. But even 5 grams, depending on the context and person, could prove fatal. To get there through coffee alone, you'd have to drink roughly 80-100 cups in a very short time. That's unlikely. But through pills or powders, it's alarmingly possible. How the body fights back once you've gone too far, your body will try to defend itself. Symptoms of caffeine toxicity include muscle tremors, vomiting, rapid or irregular heartbeat, confusion or hallucinations, seizures, death in extreme and rare cases. Hospitals treat these cases like a poisoning event. They use activated charcoal, intravenous fluids, and heart monitoring equipment. In some cases, they may have to sedate or intubate the patient. Real-life tragedies. There have been rare but real cases of caffeine overdose death, usually involving concentrated forms like powdered caffeine or excessive consumption of energy drinks. Teenagers, in particular, have fallen victim to caffeine-related cardiac events when mixing energy drinks with other stimulants or using them excessively. But wait, genetics matter. Not everyone processes caffeine the same. Some people have a gene, CYP1A2, that makes them break down caffeine quickly. Others are slow metabolizers, meaning even small doses linger longer in their system, leading to more intense or prolonged side effects. For slow metabolizers, even 1 cup in the afternoon could interfere with sleep or spike anxiety. For fast metabolizers, 3 cups before noon, no problem, but overdose risks exist for both. Addiction and tolerance. The silent escalators. The more often you consume caffeine, the more your body adapts. Tolerance builds. You need more to feel the same effect. This, in turn, pushes you further up the caffeine curve. What used to be a satisfying single espresso becomes a triple. That's how even well-meaning habits can sneak into dangerous territory. So, how do you stay safe? It's not about fear, it's about awareness. Stick to 400 mg or less per day. That's about 4 small cups of coffee. Avoid caffeine from multiple sources, coffee plus soda plus energy drinks. Be extra cautious with supplements and powders. Listen to your body. If you feel jittery, anxious, or nauseated, it's a red flag. Coming down the curve, the good news? Caffeine has a short half-life, about 3-7 hours in most adults, and your body can recover relatively quickly from a mild overdose. Hydrate, rest, don't panic. But if you ever suspect you've gone too far, especially with concentrated caffeine, don't wait. Seek medical attention immediately. Let's step out of theory and into the real world. Because as much as we love data, sometimes it's the stories that hit hardest. Especially when they involve a trip to the emergency room with your heart racing like a drum solo at a rock concert. Meet James, a 23-year-old college student prepping for finals. With 2 exams back-to-back and an all-nighter on the horizon, James decided to power through, with what he thought was a clever combination. 3 energy drinks, a few cups of coffee, and a handful of caffeine pills he picked up at the store. By sunrise, he wasn't just awake. He was shaking, sweating, and feeling like his heart might leap straight out of his chest. He was rushed to the ER with tachycardia. That's a rapid heart rate, sometimes exceeding 180 beats per minute. Doctors said he was dangerously close to a cardiac event. The total caffeine in his system, over 1,200 milligrams in less than 12 hours. Let's break that down. That's like drinking around 10 strong cups of coffee, back to back. Now, remember what we said earlier. The generally recognized toxic dose is around 400 milligrams. James tripled it, accidentally, and he's not alone. There's the story of an athlete who mixed caffeine powder into his protein shake. He miscalculated by grams. 1 gram of pure caffeine is roughly the equivalent of 25 cups of coffee. He collapsed during his workout. He lived, but just barely. Then there's the teen in South Carolina, a true tragedy. He drank a large diet soda, a latte, and an energy drink over the course of 2 hours. He didn't have any pre-existing health conditions, but the combination triggered a fatal arrhythmia, an abnormal heart rhythm. He died at school. He was only 16. What these stories tell us isn't just that caffeine can be dangerous. They highlight something deeper. Most of us have no idea how much is too much or how fast it adds up. Because caffeine doesn't come with a bold warning label. There's no red alert when you mix coffee with energy drinks or chase your cappuccino with a pre-workout mix. But maybe it should, and it's not just young people. Older adults who mix caffeine with medications like beta blockers or antidepressants may also face serious risks. Caffeine isn't a toy, and in high enough doses, it doesn't just wake you up. It messes with your heart, your blood pressure, your nervous system, and sometimes it doesn't give you a second chance. These stories aren't here to scare you away from your morning latte, but they should make you pause, respect caffeine, learn your limits, know what's in your cup, because the truth is, overdose doesn't always look like a dramatic movie scene. Sometimes it starts with a second espresso and ends with a beeping monitor. Okay, now that we've explored the dark side of caffeine, let's get practical. Because odds are, you're not quitting coffee anytime soon, and you shouldn't have to. The goal here isn't fear, it's awareness. So, how do you enjoy your daily caffeine without risking an accidental trip to the ER, or just the bathroom floor with the jitters? Here's your survival guide to caffeinating smartly and safely. Know your limit. The generally recognized safe upper limit for healthy adults is 400 milligrams of caffeine per day. That's about 4-5 standard cups of coffee. But remember, that's a guideline, not a challenge. Your sweet spot might be lower, especially if you're caffeine sensitive. Track your sources. Coffee isn't the only culprit. Caffeine hides in energy drinks, some with up to 300 mg per can, pre-workouts and fat burners. Tea, yes, even green tea. Soda, hello, cola. Chocolate, dark chocolate especially, and even some medications like Excedrin. Add all that up, and it's easy to blow past your daily limit without realizing it. Watch the clock. Caffeine has a half-life of 5-7 hours, meaning half of it is still in your system hours after drinking it. Don't be surprised when you're still wide awake at midnight. A good rule? Avoid caffeine 6-8 hours before bed. If sleep matters to you, this one's non-negotiable. Eat something with it. Drinking caffeine on an empty stomach, you're basically sending a jolt straight to your central nervous system. That can lead to acid reflux, irritability, and the dreaded mid-morning crash. A little food helps slow absorption and smooth out the ride. Hydrate like a champ. Caffeine is a mild diuretic, which means more peeing, more dehydration, and sometimes more fatigue, the very thing you were trying to fix. For every cup of coffee, try to drink a glass of water. Your kidneys and your skin will thank you. Cycle it occasionally. If you feel like caffeine no longer gives you a buzz, you might be too tolerant. Consider doing a caffeine reset a few days or even a week off to let your receptors chill. Yes, you might get headaches. Yes, you might be tired. but you'll also regain caffeine's power when you return. Respect the buzz. Caffeine isn't just a harmless boost, it's a drug, a psychoactive one. It messes with your brain, your mood, your sleep, your digestion, and your hormones. And when used wisely, it can be a tool. When abused, it can turn against you. You don't need 7 lattes to be productive, you need balance. And boundaries, even with your beloved morning cup. All right, let's answer the big question once and for all. Can you actually overdose on caffeine? Yes, you absolutely can. But before you panic and throw your latte across the room, let's unpack what that means, because context matters. Scientifically speaking, the estimated lethal dose of caffeine for most adults is between 5,000 to 10,000 milligrams. That's not a typo. The good news? It's almost impossible to ingest a fatal amount of caffeine from coffee alone. You'd likely vomit, or your heart would race out of control before you even got close. But almost impossible isn't the same as safe. Here's where it gets serious. You don't need a lethal dose for caffeine to cause real harm. You can have severe anxiety, a heart arrhythmias, a chest pain, vomiting and nausea, hallucinations, or even seizures, all from what's considered a high, but not fatal dose. For some people, just 1,000 mg of caffeine, about 10 cups of coffee or 3-4 strong energy drinks, can send them to the ER, especially if they are sensitive to stimulants, have heart issues, or mix caffeine with other substances like alcohol or ADHD meds. Even energy drinks on an empty stomach can land someone in the hospital, and it happens more often than you think. There's also the psychological side. Caffeine can fuel panic attacks, insomnia spirals, dependence and withdrawal cycles, even symptoms that mimic mental illness, like racing thoughts or paranoia. If you're drinking caffeine just to feel normal and feel awful without it, that's a red flag. It's not just a pick-me-up anymore, it's a crutch. So what's the real answer? Here's the truth: caffeine is powerful. Used wisely, it's helpful. Used recklessly, it's dangerous. You probably won't die from too much coffee, but you can absolutely hurt your body, your sleep, your mind, and your mood. So ask yourself, why are you reaching for that 3rd or 4th cup? Is it a habit, anxiety, exhaustion, pressure to perform? Are you masking a deeper issue with a temporary fix? Because ultimately, the smartest caffeine users don't drink more. They just drink better. If you made it this far, you're one of the few who cares about what's actually happening inside your body. Respect. Want more eye-opening content like this? Hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and let us know in the comments. What's your daily caffeine ritual, and have you ever gone too far? Until next time, stay curious and stay hydrated.